And we're off. Good morning,
No, we're
everybody.
on. We're
No,
on.
good-
Off is at the end of the show.
Good
We're
morning,
on.
everybody, and welcome back to Monday in the Law on my FM 101.3, Holliston Cable Access TV, the Holliston Hub, soon to be.
Love it.
I'm John Drohan, one of your hosts, joined with the other host, of course, Jay Marsden from the Marsden Law Group, and then, of course, Tom Harmon from the Holliston Cable Access TV. He is in charge of course, all things video.
Yes.
And
yes.
you're-
All the vid.
You
all
are,
the vid.
You are listening / watching Money in the Law. So welcome back. I know my hair is a little scruffy today. I was, it was a little bit of a rush. I'm trying to get this kind of a scruffy look because, as we were talking about right before
The show.
before we started, I am a budding musician.
Are you assuming your rock and roll persona
before it's time?
All right. Before your interview, it's like being a method actor. You gotta live the part right now as you step into the role.
I know. So I am, and of course, you and I have both been musicians for. No, we haven't been. I just started, right? So and I've been thinking about it for 55 years.
Sure, why
while.
not? Yep. How do I do it? Not let anybody know I'm doing it. I'm kind of embarrassed.
So I'm taking music lessons for the first time. So I'm just excited about it. And
yes.
I stink. I mean, I know I do, but you know what? The other day, I had this, again, we were talking about this before, I had this kind of this epiphany, because I'm in this store, right? I'm in this store, and I'm waiting for this person to, figure something out, and I'm waiting, and all of a sudden, the song Southern Cross comes on, Crosby, Stills, Nash, right?
Yes.
And I've been taking lessons for maybe about, I've had about 4 lessons, right? And it's more like, right?
Yep.
So as I'm hearing the song, I'm like, wait a minute. There's only 3 chords that I can hear in that, right? I'm like, A. And I'm like, I've done those chords before, and it's really slow.
I just got to piece them together.
It's really slow, right? It's really slow, right? And it's like dun 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 dun, right? And so I went home. Right after I went home, got my guitar, and I actually played 2 chords together, like the A and the G.
You're 2/3 of the way there.
Yeah. Dun dun dun, and I'm like, that actually sounds like it's supposed to sound.
Yeah. Once you get a couple of chords under your belt and some strumming patterns under your belt. Then you're on your way.
We're off, and then I'm gonna,
and then there's no end to the amount of songs that you can learn to play.
So my instructor, shout out to the music and arts guys at Milford, and they are great guys, and it's funny because they're all young, right? They're all, and I'm like this old crotchety guy that comes in. Right?
And by the way, you know how many guys that get like you, over the course of a year, that are like, hey, you know what I'm going to do? I'm having a midlife crisis, not that you are, and I'm going to learn to play the guitar. And they're like, yep, all right. And then behind the scenes, there's an over/under that they have a bet.
But you know what? But I'll give them this: if there's an over/under, there's so much enthusiasm, and they're so into the fact that I'm there. They're like, they make you feel really welcome, right? And I'm like, and I'm like, and these guys are like, they're like, and I'm like, wow,
it's a joke. Those guys have forgotten more about music than we'll ever know.
And so there's 3 of them in there, and my instructor is Brian, right? And Brian, I mean, you look at Brian, and he's like, I play every instrument.
Yeah.
He teaches the drums. He teaches, but they're all kids, right? So I come in and I'm like, I really, really want to learn it. And Brian, he's funny. He's like, yeah, that sounds better than it did.
It's like every week's an audition. Every week is an audition, right? And then something happens during the week, because you get a business, you get a family, right? Things get busy, right?
Sometimes they don't practice 6 hours a day.
For some reason, you can't get your 8 hours a day in, and you roll in and you're sort of sheepishly like, I didn't tell you, and you're prefacing it like, I didn't get as many times. I didn't get many touches this week as I wanted to, but so it's basically the same as last week. No progress, 0 progress.
So I'm in the beginning stage of this right now, and as you've offered, and all it's going to cost me is a bottle of Jameson's. When I get to the advanced level, so when I learn my 3 chords and I can actually play them together, then I'm coming to the Jay Marsden studio of folk rock singing.
So my early student days were spent right here in Milford as well, at the old Music House.
Oh, right. That's
right.
You were
telling
me
right
about
on 16 back in the day. Yep. No longer there. I don't believe it's there anymore. No, it's not. That's where I used to camp out, and got hooked up there, and then it's.
And now you're a paid musician. You're a
paid. Paid musician.
When you were a selectman, had you ever been called upon to kind of entertain while there was some deliberation going on?
As a selectman, I was so entertaining just in that role alone that there was really not a need. But I did. It's funny, when I first moved to Holliston, I didn't know a soul in the town. Did not know one person, and one of my best buddies to this day, we hooked up and bonded over music
Guitar
and the
playing.
guitar. Yep.
Yeah.
We used to go to a local establishment for open mic night. That's how we first met each other. And it was, it's a pretty
Love at
funny
first
story.
sight,
It's a
yeah.
pretty funny story. My wife used to makes fun of me to this day about it. But anyway, that's here and there.
It's
All
funny.
right, so we look forward to joining you
Yeah.
on your musical journey.
Yep, I am. My journey has begun.
I love it. I love it.
Tom, how are you doing today? Just want to make sure. Yeah,
Tom's like, yep, great.
Tom's-
Bored
Tom's
silly.
like,
Yep.
Bored. Can this thing be over fast enough?
Yep. When
speaking
does
of-
golf season start? Yep.
Speaking of selectmen, the other night I happened to sit in on the select board. I was in the Zoom call meeting,
Sure.
and I was thinking to myself, you know what? I've been kicking myself. I'm like, why didn't I watch more select board meetings back? Well, back then there wasn't on. Well, I guess I could have watched it on TV.
could have watched it on
I could
HCAT,
have watched it. Yeah, I could have watched it on HCAT, right?
Yeah.
But I was like, why didn't I go to more while you were a selectman? Because right? Because I'm and nothing against the select board now. Like I like all of them, right? And they're
Yeah.
all like kind of funny people, and they all have personality. And I'm like, when you and Conley must have been on there, it must have been like a
Oh, it was
like a
laugh
stand-up
riot.
routine.
Laugh riot.
Yeah.
It was a laugh riot. It was pretty funny. There was some hot topics. We had some fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
I still have a little PTSD from it, but it was good. It was good.
Sometimes I lay awake at night saying,
Yeah.
am I supposed to be somewhere?
Yeah, that's right. Every once in a while I wake up screaming. It's not a big deal. It's all good. It's all good.
So what's on your mind?
Well, following up on last week, I don't think there's anything more to talk about that. Last week was our two trust conversation.
We learned it, yeah.
We learned it. We covered all the bases. So I think we're covered there. Unless you want to go to the three trusts, we can do three trusts because there is one more.
How many trusts does one need? You ask yourself, right?
That's funny. Somebody asked me that. Actually, a client asked me that on a call the other day. He's like, "How many trusts could I possibly have? How many are out there?" I said, "Well, how many?" I said, "How many can you pay for? How many can you afford?"
How many? Right, we can make a trust for your trust, right? Yeah, it's like Inception, right? Yeah, it just keeps going. Yeah,
Let's go. Keep on
this
going.
trust, the beneficiary of this trust, right? Because a trust can be a beneficiary of another trust.
Yes, you can.
Yeah,
Yes,
trust
you
can own a trust,
oh,
right?
yes, it can. Yeah, you can point to everything in the right direction. So that was a conversation.
There's really there's no limit as to what you want to do. So long, well, there is a limit. It all depends on what your bank account looks like, or your
That's right.
What your legal budget looks like.
Yep. Do we charge by trust? Maybe. The answer is maybe. Depends on how many you need. Maybe.
Do you ever run like a trust special? Like if you buy 4, get the 5th one free?
We've done that. All kidding aside, we've done that.
I'll bet you have. I'll bet you someone's looking at 4 trusts like, oh, whatever. I'll throw that last one in.
Hey, you know what? We're doing a special. You know what? You didn't even need a coupon.
Yeah.
You don't even need a coupon. You know, we're just going to throw it in. We're just going to throw it in.
Right, as you're about to hand them their invoice, you're like, ooh, yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, that's supposed
It's like,
to.
it's like the end of the month at a car dealership.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, all right, we have a trust goal this month, and we're pretty close to it. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. What's it going to take to get you into this trust today? Today. Hold on one second. Let me get the manager. Let me get the sales manager in here. Let me slide the
trustee?
paperwork.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's right.
Take care
That's
of
right.
this, yeah.
That's
Like,
exactly
I need to
right.
go talk to my manager.
Yep. Hold on.
I like that.
Yep.
All right, so if we're gonna, I don't know if we need to go into the.
No, I don't think we do. I think everyone's trusted out.
Extenuated
I
trust.
trust everyone's run their course on this.
That is a trustworthy thing
Yes,
to say.
that's right, that's right.
I have trust in that as well. So this is why I wanted to bring this up. I think we talked about this I was about to talk about last week till we got into that, the riveting double trust.
Understandable.
Thing. I wanted to talk about the similarities and the differences, but primarily the similarities of kind of all things that have to do with finance. And the inspiration behind this was we had a discussion, and I forget exactly what but there was it was dawning on me once again that you and I have very much in common.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
You
We
and
have
I
lots in common.
Yeah, so there may be some story time here.
All by accident, by the way. We have a
Yeah,
lot in
right.
common.
Like all like just by it's not like we sought this out, right?
Right. That's right. That's
but
right.
yeah, like and so as it was dawned on me, like we really have a lot in common. Like weird, strange things. Like we're the same age, and we're kind of we both have sisters, and
Yeah,
we're
very
it's like
similar growing up.
Yeah,
That's right.
It's
That's
like
right.
it's
That's
all
right.
and then we're here, and we both in the finance industry. You had a waterbed as a kid, so did I.
I knew you were waiting.
Right.
I knew you were dying to work that in.
I don't know. I know one other guy that had a waterbed, and that's why I got it. It was my friend Paul Meyer. So Paul's like, I got a waterbed. I'm like, I need a waterbed. Like, of course I do. And we had this conversation. My waterbed was just it was a bag of water.
That's all it was.
There was no like support in that
Nothing
thing, right?
fancy.
I don't know,
Nothing
right?
fancy.
And it was freezing cold. Like sometimes my heater wouldn't work.
Oh,
yeah.
that's like climbing onto a gigantic ice cube, and you're like, okay.
Right.
And then,
Oh,
by the way,
how
and then it
cozy
just,
is this?
and all that does is pull the heat
Yeah.
out of your body.
Yeah.
You think I'm going to throw a bunch of blankets on me, and this is going
It's
to
like
be great?
you're reducing
You
swelling.
have hypothermia. You wake up, you're like, my core body temperature is 68 degrees. I have to go to the hospital.
Oh yeah, it's like it'd be great if like I broke my back or something. Yeah,
Yeah.
then I would reduce.
Come
some
down
of that
looking for
stuff.
like you look for one of those Mylar blankets like you just ran the marathon. Like where are those things? I'm
Wrap
dying
myself
down
up
here.
in a space blanket.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
So as I was thinking about the fact that we had all this coming, it dawned on me that you know what. There's, as we've said this many times, that everybody's situation is different, right? Everybody's financial situation, everybody is unique. And that's the important part of kind of, making sure you treat everybody differently because
It makes the world go round.
everybody's got a little bit different spin to their story. With that said, there's also a whole lot of similarities. There's a whole
Yes.
lot of things that are congruent and that are the same through
Yeah, there's
case
a
and case
lot of
again.
situational overlap.
Right.
Let's call it. Yep.
Right.
Yep. That's right.
So and again, this happens both on the financial side as well as the legal side, but particularly in the financial side, you just see that there's kind of everybody that like some of the common things, and we say this all the time, like
Sure.
all roads lead to retirement.
Yes.
So although everybody's retirement is going to look different, the fact that they're going to be retired in some way, shape, or form, that there's going to be some form of kind of work as you know it right
Yes.
now ending, that's a common thing, right? And
Yep.
now you have to kind of prepare for that, and everybody's got to prepare a little differently, but at the same time, there's only a certain number of ways you can really prepare for it.
Well, there's only a certain number of ways to prepare for it, and there's only a certain number of ways that you get there.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
again, I mean, the paths, like to your point, the paths look a little different, but the overriding theme is very, very similar.
Yeah,
right?
and then there's the whole idea of like, although everybody has different personalities, but different jobs, different careers, different
Sure.
incomes, and all that. But there's like, okay, you have a family, right? There's people that are that have a family, they're married and have children. There's people that have families that have been changed because through divorce or through some sort of like people moving on. There's the idea of that people work in a particular line of work, like a particular field, like the government, or they have like their job carries with them like some sort of pension situation. Some people work for themselves, and but everybody's got like these overlapping similarities, and what that enables people like us to do is enables us to kind of say, okay, we know that you're different, but here's kind of the basic program that we're going to get on, and then we can make some adjustments. We can
there's a
tailor
theme,
it
there's
to
a
you.
theme. Yeah. And just for the uninitiated on this, where this comes from is, when you guys do whatever the number is, right?
You guys
50
do what you do.
Well, but when you have 50 or 75 conversations a year about retirement planning, right? The issues that you're just talking about, those sort of rise to the surface, right? We might do 200 estate plans this year. Over the course of those 200 estate plans, we're going to have obviously any number of conversations, and there's going to be overlap. Yes, just to your point, and then we'll go to break and we'll come back and dive into it. Yes, there's going to be one-offs. There's going to be outlier issues, but there'll be a lot of similarities, and probably more similarities than outlier issues.
Yeah, and
it
that's
gives you a blueprint.
Right, and it's a good thing because then it enables you to kind of have some relativity to kind of compare it to other cases.
Sure.
So that's super helpful. All right, so like you said, we're going to go to break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. What did I find what's that? In my pocket.
God.
Oh, do all great musicians carry one of these just in case?
It's a guitar, but case an acoustic set breaks out.
In case something throws out. Yeah, so I have my guitar pick right
At
here.
the ready. Love it.
That's for all the aspiring musicians.
I used to do that when I was first starting out too. Yep. All right.
We'll be right back.
And we're back. My FM 101.3. Jay Marsden with the Marsden Law Group out of Holliston, Massachusetts. John Drohan, Main Effort Financial, also out of Holliston, Massachusetts.
Crazy.
Right
What a
downtown
strange similarity.
in the Holliston
Yeah.
Financial
Yeah,
District.
yeah,
And we're here with Tom, and Ray decided he had enough of us, so he just got us set up and then headed out the door. So that's fine. I got it. No hurt
Ray,
feelings.
Ray, who's going to join our when we start our
Join
new band.
our acoustic trio.
Yeah.
That's right. The
And
acoustic
Ray has
trio.
a little. He's a little bit of experience.
See,
you know,
Crosby,
being on
Stills,
stage.
Nash and Young tribute band. I think is where we're going with that.
Oh, I can't
Bring
wait.
the harmonies
Are you
together.
kidding me? Right?
I know.
Seriously?
I know.
In the great honor of the recently late David Crosby. Oh,
Fantastic.
I mean,
fantastic,
come on.
Fantastic.
Why-
I'll be Neil Young. I'll come in and come out with rage and anger, and then come out. Come in.
Right.
Come in.
Well, you're actually we ask you to leave.
That's right.
Yeah, we're
For all the
done.
right
We're
reasons.
done with you.
For all the right reasons. That's
Yeah.
right. Probably
See
for
ya.
the same reasons. That's
See you
exactly
next
right.
time.
That's exactly right. Yep.
See you next time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks.
So when you were talking before the break, we're talking about sort of similarities and overlap. So when when you're sort of putting together your, we'll call it an avatar, right, for your client, right? So you're working with the client, and on the legal side, somebody comes in the office and they go, all right, Jay, here's kind of what we're looking at. Wife and I married 20, 30 years. We don't have any estate plan in place. A couple of kids. Kids are in their
Classic.
late teens, early
The
20s.
classic appointment.
Classic appointment, right? We get a house, mortgage is almost paid off, maybe it's even paid off, congratulations. Maybe they get a second place. Maybe it's a beach house, maybe it's a lake house. X amount of dollars in the bank, right? Get a couple of bucks they put away, and then they get retirement money and probably still working, right? So
Kids are probably in the young adult stage.
yeah, that's right. Just on the outside of getting out of college,
Yep.
right? So mom and dad can say, look, we're done with college bills. We don't have to do those anymore. That's all taken care of. And now, to your point, the push is on for retirement. We got maybe 8 to 10 years to go, and we really want to finish strong. And then, without knowing anything else, we say, okay, on the law side, here's kind of what your plan looks like.
Yeah.
Right? Unless you tell me there's something weird, right?
Yeah.
Something weird where there's a reason that you don't want your kids to inherit your money directly because there's some issue that we don't know about. Okay, that's a little bit of a one-off. Let's sit down and let's talk about that. There's a solution for that. There's a plan for that, right? Or you're going to be inheriting a substantial amount of money from your parents.
Yeah,
okay?
there's these by the way things, right?
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
because in your mind, right, as when you're hearing this, you've been in business now for over 20 years. Like you've heard this story like a million times, right?
Well, it's like a legal choose your own storybook.
yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Right.
That's right. So,
Right.
so if you're soon to be divorced, go to page 46, right? And we go to page 46,
It's like
and then
a
we talk
flow
about
chart. Click here.
that's right.
If yes, yeah.
That's
if
right.
no,
You're
yeah.
going to give away half of everything you own, and let's tell you how that. So now that you've given away half of everything you own, go to page 92, the ending, which is not that great, right? So we kind of work through that. I'm assuming on the financial side, a lot of
Same
similarities.
thing, right? So using the same scenario, right? So somebody comes in, they're in that, and so that you brought up the point of we're looking at retirement. So that's usually for us. That's the first question.
First thing you start
That's
with.
the first thing to say. So when do you think this retirement's going to happen? And then in the same breath, what is retirement, right? Because that's the question. It's like, so is your retirement? I'm never going to work another day in my life. Or is your retirement, I'm going to fade off into the sunset because my career is going to allow me to do that? Or is your retirement, I don't know. I know I'm going to turn 67 and I know I'm going to be able to collect Social Security.
Yep.
And I know I probably can't do this forever, but I don't know kind of what that day or time or that thing looks like.
Yeah,
But
you're self-employed. Your retirement might be like, you know what? My kids are taking over my practice. They're taking over my business, and my job is to just be the puppet master and pull the strings from up here. But I'm not pulling the rope anymore. I'm done with that, right? So to your point, couple of different iterations.
yeah, but like you said, we kind of have these reference points where, okay, if it's somebody who is self-employed, this is kind of what we've seen before in the past, right?
Yep.
If somebody who is a salary person who works for a company, and they may or may not allow you, or there may be kind of like this, hey, at this point, like if you're a teacher or something like that, you get to the point where like, hey, you're going to retire, and this is when everybody retires, or it may be one of those where I don't know. I could continue to work, but I may not work as much, or they may allow me to kind of fade off, or maybe work less. So whatever.
I would imagine your first question. Somebody comes in and goes, "Hey, John, this is our plan, right? This is our story. This is our situation, right?" Your first question, because you're a financial advisor, your first question is, "How much money do you have?"
Yeah.
Right? How much money do you have? and where would your income come from in retirement?
Yeah, because
right,
because people say that they're like, oh, and how many times have you heard, people say, I'm retiring at this. They come and think, oh, I know I'm retiring, and I know, and I'm done, and then Gladys is going to be done at this, 2 years after me, and that's how we're doing because she'll carry the medical insurance till she turns 65, and that's when we're done.
But I mean the reason that this is important and the reason we're highlighting this is to say that there were some similarities and there's some overlap. Think about two situations that couldn't be more at more opposing ends of the scale, right? You have two people who come in who worked for 30, 35 years. One of them was a self-employed lawyer, right? I'll choose myself, right? But think about it. One of them is a self-employed lawyer.
Self-employed lawyers, right?
And one of them worked.
Dime a dozen.
And one of them worked for Fidelity, for example, right?
Wait. But what if you're a self-employed lawyer who used to work for
different story. Different story.
What do you mean?
But
this is this story.
No, my point is, you can sit down with those people, and they're both going to say, John, I've worked 35 years. I'm at the tail end of my career, and I'm getting ready to wrap it up, and I need to figure out what this looks like. Right now, the Fidelity person could come in and say, oh, and by the way, I've been contributing to my 401k for the last 35 years, and I have a sizable amount of money saved.
Go look at that.
Here's the dollar amount, right? And then the lawyer could come in and say, you know what, John? I've been so busy running my practice for 35 years, I just never got around to saving
I never
money.
Wanted to.
Right? It was just, I had too much going on.
I was investing in my practice, right?
Whatever the story is, right? So I guess but they come to the table with the same, married, house, mortgage, and so the blueprint is the same, the overall theme is the same, and you're gonna ask the same exact questions.
Well, what's the one thing that everybody needs? What does everybody need? In the great Danny DeVito, like everybody loves money. Why? That's why they call it money.
Because it's money. Everyone loves money. So they need income.
So what are you going to need, right? You're going to need income, right? You're going to need income no matter what. You're going to need money that's going to come into your bank account that's going to allow you to pay your bills, whatever those bills may be, however big or small they may be, right? So that's first and foremost. So like you said, how much money do you have? What is your income capability, right? Or did you qualify for Social Security? Do you have a pension? And the whole 9 yards, you say, okay, because that's going to drive the retirement, that's going to drive that retirement discussion.
Absolutely it is, yeah.
And the same thing on the legal side, right? So it's like, okay, so when the people come in for the estate planning and you say, okay, who do you want all this money to go to? What do you want to see when it's all said and done, when all the dust settles? Where do you want all this to go?
But, or you might ask the same set of questions, and somebody comes in and goes, well, we got a house, and then how much you have saved in retirement? Well, we don't have a lot of money saved in retirement. And so you think to yourself, okay, is that because you never save for retirement? Or they say to you, well, actually, wait a minute, I work for the federal government, and I have an $8,000 a month pension that I just need to put some paperwork in, and then they start sending me a bunch of checks for the rest of my life. Right. But the overriding theme, the question strategy is the same for the self-employed individual, the person who worked in the private sector, and the person who worked in some type of government arrangement, because you're solving the same problems.
I'll take it even one further. What about the person who comes in who, like you said, I've been contributing to my Fidelity 401k since I was 22 years old. And then there's the person who's like, yeah, I've worked, I've been a construction worker, and I don't have any money, and I don't have a federal pension. I don't. So, but I'm 65 years old, and guess what? Like I'm not going to be able to swing a hammer for the next 10 years or for like 10 years from now. So at some point I need to be, what does my retirement look like? And that's it. And again, it all comes back to that first question of, okay, so when you stop doing what you're doing right now, how are you going to get income? Where is your income going to come from? Is it going to come from Social Security? Is it going to come from potentially a career change, right? So you take that kind of that situation where if somebody who's is a construction worker or a laborer or somebody who's kind of worked their whole life like with their hands, they've saved some money, but they may not have a ton of money, right? Now, a lot of times those guys will have property, right? So that maybe they'll have their
Sure.
house, right? They, you know, so yeah, I've been a cash and carry guy my whole life. I own my house. I've owned my house for the last 20 years, right? And oh, by the way, I own, you know, this other house too, or, you know,
Right, got a
whatever.
couple of rental properties.
Yeah, so you could be in a situation like that where you have some other capabilities in which to draw income from, or you may not, right?
Right.
But at the end of the day, the first question is going to be, okay, so how are you going to, where is this income going to come from, and is this income going to be enough? Because, you know, if someone says to me, yeah, I'm retiring, I'm 62, I'm retiring, I'm going to start collecting my Social Security early, and I'm done working, I'm never working another day in my life. And I'm like, okay, so let's look at your finances. Oh, you still have a mortgage. You pay $2,200 a month on your mortgage. Oh, you still have, you know.
Oh, and you say to yourself, so are you downsizing? Are you heading down south somewhere? You're taking the equity that you already have, and you're going to move down south and pay for someplace, and you'll live mortgage free down there?
Yeah.
Oh, you're not doing that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. And how many times have you seen it where people are like unrealistic about like, oh yeah, I'm going to be done. And I'm like, okay, you could do this, but there's going to be a significant lifestyle change that you're going to have to make, or you have, you know, $200,000 in your 401k or in your IRA, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to live off of that. And you're like, okay, you're going to live off of that, and you know, you've heard people say, I'm only going to live another 7, 8, 10 years tops, right? And okay, in the unlikely event that you're highly unlikely that you're still alive in 10 years,
right?
Which you probably will be if I'm, you know, if my statistics are correct.
If the actuaries know what they're talking about.
Yeah. So I'm like, you're going to be out of money, and then what? And then things are going to really have to change. Things like you may have to move in with one of your kids. You know, nothing that you've kind of laid out for me as like these are my retirement goals.
Right. So the point of this part of the conversation is, no matter how you get there, right? We talk about overlap, we talk about consistency, we talk about similarities. So the questions, the analysis, the discussion around how all this comes together is the same, right? Yep. It's the same analysis. Again, there's going to be one-offs, right? We inherited a lot of money. We inherited a rental property or an income property. I got divorced late in life, and that caused me to give up a substantial amount of my either, you know, property or retirement money, or vice versa, or I was the winner in the divorce. Or, you know, there's going to be some things that come off that are a little different, but there's a substantial amount of overlap between the way the analysis gets done.
Yep.
And you know, it's, you know, you have two people who come to the table with municipal pensions, and those people say, look, income is not a problem for us, right? You know, he gets 60, I get 60, she gets 70, I get 70, whatever the number is. We've got plenty of income. That's not a problem for us.
Yeah.
Our issue is going to be our legacy to our kids. How do we do other things? And they may have no problems. They might say, look, our issues are how do we cover long-term care? There's other things. But you're going to ask everybody, no matter how they get there, the same questions, because the challenges and the risks are the same.
Yeah, so I think kind of the thing I want to take away from this is, as I'm thinking, like, of course there's similarities, there's these kind of glide paths that really overlap in many ways. The problem that happens, or the kind of the slippery slope that people go into, is that discussion by the pool down in Florida. And we've talked about this many times.
God, yeah.
Where we're like, okay, yeah, you guys, both of you guys are teachers, and both of us are teachers. We both have municipal pensions. So therefore, we must be identically the same, right? And in so many ways, it could be the same. Just like you and I, in so many ways, are the same. Like, you know, you work for yourself, I work for myself. You have a family, I have a family. You know, you have girls, I have girls. You know, all this, you know, we're the exact same age. Well, I'm a little bit older, but that's right. Wait, today's 3 March. Yeah, so this is a big month.
This
big month for
this
you.
month, double
you know
nickels, baby. Double nickels, baby.
Well, what happens the day after is you're closer to one number than you are to another number.
What happens the day after is I'm going to go down to FLA to celebrate that. So I'll be down there for a little.
It's a grovel about that, right?
That's right. For golf week with the fellas. But that's it. We'll talk about that when we get closer.
So this trap that people can run into, because again, you're hearing it. You know, I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth. Like there's so many similarity things, but at the same time, it's always going to be different.
Yeah.
There's always going to be some semblance of that as different. So you may kind of like go on the same path, like say, okay, well, you know, you both have, so for instance, if I'm giving guidance to like two different couples that both have municipal pensions, right? So I'll say, okay, remember, because you have this pension, or because you have this guaranteed income, it may give you a little more flexibility on your other savings, like on your retirement savings.
Well, you're going to ask the same question you would ask me if I walked into your office, which is, I know how much you have in income because you've told me how much you have in your pensions. Now, the real important question is, how much do you spend? Right?
Yeah.
Because if while you were working, remember at retirement, your pension is a percentage of what you were making while you were working. So if you were spending up to your full economic potential as a worker, when you dial it back and you go into pension mode, does that 70 or 80% of your pre-retirement income, does it still cover all the bases?
Yeah,
and it may not.
And it's funny because I have that. We in fact just recently we've seen this where we have clients that they have a substantial pension, right? They're like it's a great pension, and they're and you look at it, on paper, and you're like their income looks it's great. Like you're like wow,
And the pension's great because they were making some good coin.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Right?
And you're like wow, you are getting paid this much money for breathing. And I tell them, and then we do the math. Like I'm like all right, if I have a $10,000 a month pension, this is what the equivalent of a 401k is. Like that's a lot of money. If I wish I had that in my 401k, right?
Yep.
So, but then you turn around and then they say, well, yeah, we need to draw income from our assets. And I'm like, okay, well, how much do you need to draw? And they're like, well, we need to draw the same amount as we're taking from the pension. I'm like, let me do the math on that. Like if you're getting $8,000 a month for a pension, you need another $8,000. Yeah, and of course it's net, right?
Yeah.
I need $8,000 net, right? Because we spend $16,000 a month on
everything,
on stuff, right?
Yeah.
On our stuff. And I'm like, okay, so so that scenario again, if you have two people identical glide paths, someone who has an $8,000 pension, and then they turn around and they say, the people that are next to them, they may have half the expenses.
Yeah.
So again, you said it, right? We have, how much money do you have? What is your income? And then what are your income requirements? And that's where, that differential or individualization comes out really, really significantly. But in many ways, sometimes it's the same, right? In many ways, sometimes it's comparable. Like, oh, I own my house. I live in Holliston, so I pay significant real estate tax. My kids are out of school. I don't my kids are they're on their own, right? So we don't have a lot. We don't have we don't have to like give money for to take care of our parents or things like that. So so if we make relatively the same amount and we spend relatively the same amount of money, again, which is very common, now you're in that you're back to that overlap again.
Right. Let's quick break. We'll come back and we'll keep scratching the surface here and see how it comes together.
Scratch it. With your guitar pick.
With the guitar pick.
Yeah.
All right.
This is the best kind. This is just so you know. In case you were asking what's the best kind, it's the
four lessons, Tom. This is the best kind. That's like me telling you that's like me telling you how about your golf swing, Tom. That's what that's equivalent of right there. Let me give you some pointers, Tom. Let me give you some pointers.
D.
Yeah, I shoot 120, Tom. You know what you're not doing right?
A. We're talking about music, right?
We'll be back. Minding the
You
Law,
play the
My
guitar?
FM 101.3.
We'll talk about it when we come back.
We'll be back in 2 minutes. Stay tuned. And we're back. My FM 101.3. Jay Marsden with the Marsden Law Group. Sean Drohan, Main Effort Financial. We're talking today about the similarities, the overlap between the way we approach your situation as a client and the similarities between different clients with sort of coming from different directions, different backgrounds, different employment histories, different personal histories, and talking about how there's a lot of similarity, there's a lot of overlap to these scenarios. On the legal side, for a second,
I was about to go legal.
I bet you were. It's funny, we'll do a lot of phone calls at the office. People will call in, and if they can't come in for an initial consultation in the office, we'll do a phone consultation with them. And we have phone consultations all the time, and it's to your point about how there's so much overlap. We'll do a phone call at 10, we'll do a phone call at 11:30, and it's a very similar conversation. And we've said this to people. One of the things that we see a lot is you get these scenarios where the adult children are trying to help out mom or dad, for example. And mom and dad they have some cognitive challenges, and so they're not really making the best decisions, but it's not quite crystal clear that they're kind of completely out of the game and they shouldn't be making the decisions at all. They're in this, what we call kind of this gray area because they just can't figure out, can mom still call the shots? I mean, some things aren't great, but some things are okay, and there's good days and bad days and this whole thing. and we try to kind of coach the family through what some of the scenarios and the issues are. And the conversation is very, very similar. And we find ourselves saying to people all the time, we were just talking to a client who's in a very similar situation to you. Not because we're trying to downplay the scenario that you're dealing with, but in some respects to hopefully give you a little bit of peace in the sense that you're not the only one. That's exactly right. You're not alone in dealing with this. You're not the only one kind of going through these things. And so we will get a number of phone calls and appointments and consultation with clients where we're having this, what feels like to us, obviously, the same conversation because we've been through it. And maybe for you as a client, it's the first time or maybe the second time, but it's a new experience for you. And we're trying to come at it and say, you know what, here's a couple things you want to think about. Here's some of the stuff that you're going to face. Here's some of the issues you're going to run into. And then as the situation kind of unfolds, they kind of laugh at some point. They say, that everything you just talked about, it's exactly what happened, right?
Yeah.
And we're not saying we're not predicting the future. You've seen a lot of these, and so you know that there's quite a bit of similarities to these scenarios from time to time to time.
Yeah, and you're not trying to, and that's the other thing, is you're not trying to shoehorn people into a situation.
No.
You're not trying to cookie cutter anything, and that's an important distinction to make, I think, because oftentimes it'll be like, you're a municipality person, or you work for the government, so therefore you're going to fall into this box, and you're going to be exactly the same, and we're going to put a bunch of other people in the same box, right?
Nope. Yep.
So I guess it's, instead of like treating it as a box, you can kind of treat it as like an area, right? And everybody's
Sure.
like, oh, you have there's a lot of similarities here, but knowing full and well that everything's going to be different. Here's a great example, and this is the legal example I was going to bring up.
Nice.
So when you do estate planning, let's say with like a young couple that has children, what's the first question? What's the the most important thing? Like if you do nothing else before leaving my office today, or take nothing out of this meeting, at least with us, what's the one thing that far and away, more than money, more than anything else, what is it that you advise people that they need to do?
Sign this fee agreement. Oh,
after
that. I'm sorry. My bad.
Sign this fee. Please give us a down payment.
My bad.
My
bad. You have a credit card. You want the miles?
That's fine.
Miles or points?
Let's
Your
do
call.
it. We go points.
No, if it's a family
Young couple with children.
First thing we worry about. Do you know who the guardian would be of your kids? And then do you know who would be, healthcare proxy's power of attorney? That's the most, two things I'm not worried about you passing away. I'm not worried about something happening to you. I don't want it to happen, but I'm not worried about that. But here's what I am worried about. I'm worried about who will be the guardian of your children. And then you're going to say, well, why Jay, why would you worry about that? And then I get to say, well, let me tell you about let's just use 5 as an example. Yeah. Let me give you the 5 examples that we've just recently been through where somebody didn't have this lined up and stuff got weird. And the weirdness is always the same, right? It's always fighting, it's always probate court, it's always lawyers, it's always court costs, it's always fees. Those things are always the same, right? And so the bad is always the same.
Right.
The bad can get really weird, just like the good can get really.
It's like soup, right?
Yeah.
It's like it tastes different, but it's soup, right?
Yeah,
it's the same thing.
That's right. It's not a steak. It's not a steak,
no.
right? So that's the same thing. Somebody comes in, first thing. Somebody walks in the office and says, I think my mom or my dad might be going to a nursing home. First thing we ask, not because we care about it, it gives us a sense of how much urgency we have, but do we have to worry about, are we doing asset restructuring? Do we have to worry about how much real estate is involved? Do we have money to even just pay some time privately in the nursing home? That's the question that we ask
what are your
everybody.
assets? Like, what do you have, right?
Yeah. Do you have? We always ask everybody. Do you have a healthcare proxy power of attorney? Well, why do you always ask that question? Because I need to know who's in charge, who's making decisions, and if we don't have somebody that's doing that, then I got to go to probate court. Are you going to go to probate court? And we have to get that taken care of to accomplish these things. And so, to your point, there's a questioning strategy because there's similarity and there's overlap to the different scenarios that come up. And then, yes, there's always going to be some outlier scenario.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, somebody will come in and say, we own property in some random state, right? Okay, that's not unusual, but we don't see that a lot.
Yeah.
Somebody came in one day, not that long ago, over six months ago, and they owned mineral rights. Okay, well, that's not something we see a
see
lot.
that a lot.
We don't see that here in Massachusetts
Mineral
a lot,
rights.
but we
Yeah.
own mineral rights.
They specified the mineral?
Nope, it just said mineral
Calcium,
rights.
yeah.
Yep. No, it was. Yeah, it wasn't on
Yeah.
the. So again,
Potassium, I
there's
love
some
it.
things. We're part of some family business. In the Midwest, we're my parents owned a farm and the family. Okay, that's something we don't see all the time, right? But that early example of we get a house, we get a lake house, we get some money in a 401k, we got our primary residence. Kids are in school. Kids just get out of school.
And we own the rights to. We're 30% owners of a fracking company.
And then and then we're long cobalt. Okay, great, sure, okay.
Yeah, let me get the playbook out for that, right?
Yep. So
you said cobalt, right? Yeah, not.
Which
yeah,
one's
what-
out on the
it wasn't
which one's out on the
potassium.
on the table?
Right.
Which one's out on the
Get
table
your
again?
periodic
I
table.
know
that's,
what
that's the first thing you're pulling up on your screen, right? You're looking at like, oh yeah, because I have this memorized, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Hold on one second.
Chemistry was one of my favorites.
That's why you go to law school. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the idea is yes, there's often some similarities. Now, if somebody says to you guys, my situation is different.
Yeah.
My situation is different. John, you know what you're talking about.
Well, where do you always hear that? Where do you hear it a lot in like these divorce situations, right? Because everybody feels like their situation's unique.
Yeah, they're the only one who's ever get divorced.
Right. And you think, and we tell our clients this. And unfortunately, we see a lot of divorced clients. It's like we tell them, like, look, you know what? You're going to bring your case in front of a judge, and this judge, you know what they've seen the last 29 cases before yours that's coming in at 3:30 that afternoon? It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. This person, we're no longer want to remain married, and both of us want to retain as much of our financial independence as we can. Both of us want to see the kid, and you think like so. There's like all these overlapping similarities that the divorce the court's like, yep, we've seen this before.
Well, and the court
you say, no, but mine's different this time.
Yeah, we
right?
have kids.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, you're the first person who divorced with kids. Okay. Well, guess what? There's a plan for that too, right?
Right.
And then you got to work out the custody arrangement. You got to work out the property settlement. You got to work out alimony. You got to work out this. You got to work out that. And we see them. You see them. And here's the other thing. When you go through it as often as you guys do, what's nice about kind of this approach to things is you start to know what questions to ask. Yep. That because you've seen these situations over and over again, that your client might not even think about. Like we know now from having done this over the years that when somebody comes in and they're divorced and they have life insurance, we know that there's a very good chance that they're holding on to that life insurance because they're required to hold on to that life insurance as part of their divorce settlement, right? And so that's something that they have to. So for you guys, you have to say, well, those premiums got to get made. Right, that's part
of the deal.
We're going to build that into your income plan.
Yeah,
you can't fool around with that
because it's a legal order that's based on the divorce.
Yep.
So and in those situations where you have where people again like the reason they bought the life insurance back in the old days was for whatever their reason was, like to provide income, like
create that instant estate, baby.
The fact that they don't. That they are no longer alive, but now because of that income is designed to help pay for the kids or to pay for for their ex-spouse or whatever they need to do. But these are all things that have to that although again everybody's got a different situation. These are all like these similarity things that we see over and over and over again that enable people like Jay and I like to be able to say, okay, we can get you, we can because of our experience, we can get you heading in the right direction, and then whatever the individuality of it is, whatever the details are, we'll be able to prescribe whatever we think needs to get done in order to get you where you want to go.
Whatever customization needs to be made can be made, right? Those tweaks, those adjustments, those things, those can be handled that way. But I think the importance as a client, I think the idea of understanding that when you sit down and have these conversations, hopefully the people that you're talking to on a regular basis can say to you, we've seen either this exact scenario, or we kind of have a sense of how this plays out, or we've seen something very similar to this with a couple of tweaks here and there, and this is where it could work. And again, I'm not, I can tell you what, this is what I think you could try to do. It may work, it may not work. And then we move on to this. There's a play card, if you will, for a lot of situations that you're going to come up against, and that's what you're going to for your advisors or talking to your lawyers, talking to financial people, because they've seen it. they can tell you, here's what we should do.
Yeah, and you see this, and you know, kind of a good analogy to this is kind of like just the whole like kind of general concept of retirement investing,
Yeah.
right? So in you know, kind of the playbook for retirement investing, you know, for us is like, okay, so you have a job, and let's say your job, your employer offers you an employer-sponsored plan, whether it be a 401k or simple IRA or something
Sure.
like that. So 9 out of 10 times, 99 out of 100, 999 out of 1,000, we will probably say, okay, you know, based on if you can afford to do this, then were I you, I would contribute to this. I would save money in this particular retirement plan for all the reasons, for all of like kind of the reasons why it was developed. You get tax deferred investment. It's usually inexpensive. It comes out of your comes out of
Usually
your paycheck.
pre-tax, if you do pre-tax,
Yep,
so you
it's
pay less in taxes by doing this way. Yeah.
Yeah, so you get all these kind of built-in tax breaks that the government has designed for this to enable you to save for retirement, and you know, and that's what most people will do, right? And again, given the chance, you know, because this is so, you know, so many people fall into this situation. Could there be the possibility of like the one-off where you say, well, yeah, but I'm also I'm a contractor, right? So let's say I work for a company, but I'm also a contractor. So I could, instead of the money that I would otherwise put into my 401k, I buy and flip houses,
Yeah.
right? And I have so that money I could invest it somewhere else. Most of the time we'll be like, well, you know, the 401k it enables, you know, there's reasons for that, but there could be reasons why you don't necessarily do that. But most of the time you're going to have these kind of same similarities, and what your advisor is going to be able to do is to kind of explain to you why this is better than, because you may come and say, no way, I want to invest in my brother's company. It's way better. I'm going to get way more bang for your buck.
Well, I mean, think about what you're talking about, right? I mean, you say it all the time. All roads lead to retirement. All roads lead to retirement. Then when you get to retirement, now you got to figure out, well, what are my sources of income going to be?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's what the whole thing's all about, right?
Yeah.
And so for some people, the sources of income are Social Security. And that's it.
Yeah.
That's their plan. That's the way they put it together. That's what goes on for them. And then for other people,
And it
we
could
talk.
work.
That's
right.
right. That's right.
Could work because their expenses may be very minimal.
That's right. That's right. They may have saved a little bit. They don't spend a lot of money. That's right. But then all the other pieces come in that you just talked about. If you're somebody who's in the property business, your income is going to come from property in retirement, rental income, and you've done that for a million years. And to your point, maybe you forego putting money into retirement money because you'd rather put that into real estate because that's your thing. Then that's your plan. There's a conversation there. It's a different discussion, but it's still the same conversation. How much money do your rental properties generate for you in retirement, and do they generate enough to meet your needs? And then it goes back to and I have a pension and a 401k. Okay, great. That's a different animal. It's the same. The analysis and the discussions are the same. And then, of course, then there's going to be a couple of one-offs that we need to adjust for.
But right, so even though the analysis, I guess the thing to take away from it is that even though it's going to walk and talk and feel the same, everybody's going to have a different, unique situation.
Correct.
Everybody's going to have, in the example of the guardianship of your children, you're going to have a different, whoever that guardian is. It's not necessarily going to be your sister or your brother, or it's going to be whomever that's based on the individuality of that
the
situation.
framework is the same.
Yeah.
But yes, there are going to be individual customizable elements within the framework. And I say that not as a way to say to people, you're the same as everybody else. There's a million of you guys, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That's not the point. The point is to say, my hope is that a conversation like that brings some peace of mind, because then people can come in and say, John, this isn't the first rodeo. This isn't John's first rodeo. Main Effort has seen these situations before. Yes, I might have a slightly different twist on some things. Some elements might be different, but I got it all figured out, and that's the same exact thing for us. What's different? What's different? What's different? What's different? Well, we'll work in the different, but remember, the framework is the same, right? All cars work the same, right?
Yeah.
4 wheels, a steering wheel for the most part. Then things get a little weird, right? It's the same idea. You know, every pilot doesn't get into a plane and say, "Wow, this looks completely different. Why is
weird?
Why are the controls on the ceiling or on the floor or on the, you know?" Again, there's a continuity to this because there's some efficiencies that are built in there. And then there's going to be some things that are kind of one-offs.
So I'll leave you with this as we're about to check off. So
yeah,
it's
go ahead.
time.
Yeah, sure.
So
all right.
I'll leave you with this.
Please do.
So
Speak of
for
Sage One.
most for again, as many of these retirement plans kind of feel the same. One of the things that we are really familiar with in Main Effort Financial as far as retirement plan is that, let's say you've saved in a 401k, you've saved some liquidity, you know, you've kind of paid down your bills, so you're ready to retire. The one thing that we are experiencing is if you decide to become a musician in retirement to kind of support yourself through, and how long that'll last. How many like post music? I mean, think about it, right? If you're Mick Jagger, you're playing into your 80s, right? Yeah.
Yep. So if you're not Mick Jagger, right?
Yep.
I have a very good friend of mine who's a wildly talented musician. He's retired. He's got himself a nice pension. He'll tell you that, you know, he put his time in. And what does he do for his, you know, his pocket money, his beer money?
Yeah.
He plays a couple nights out.
Talking to me.
And
tell him, send him my way. Yeah, tell him, and because that's the plan that we're working on for some people in our clientele right now.
Well, it's funny. As we get older, right? We talk about this as we get a little closer to the finish line. I know a lot of guys who are, you know, getting ready to wrap it up, or wrapping it up, or they're downshifting, you know. And one of the things that they joke about all the time is like, look, I'm wrapping it up, but they're in their own mind. Their arrangement is like, I got to do something to earn the pocket change, right? That's their thing, right? They're like, I'm not I'm not hitting my 401k so I can go to, you know, Red Heat for dinner, right? Yeah. They're like, you know, we're looking to keep busy, keep active, and if this covers, you know, my beer tab and a couple of nights out with the fellas, then so be it, right?
How many of those guys have you run into in like Home Depot or Lowe's, right?
And
they're the nicest guys in the world, right? Like they're like, you know, you're struggling, but you're trying to be cool, not to make a spectacle of yourself, like you don't know where like the 3/4 inch screws are, and like then a guy will come up and say, hey, do you need help with anything? And you're like, maybe, yeah.
Because you know what? Because he cashes that check on Friday afternoon.
That's right.
That slides right into
right
his pocket,
to Red Heat.
And he's like, "Yep, this is it. This covers a 12-pack on the way home, a gas in the car, maybe a dinner or two out during the week with the wife, and life is good."
And you know, and that's another comment. The kind of the post retire, like what everybody's. That's another show. All right, we gotta wrap it up.
That's a whole nother show. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Jay Marsden, Money in the Law. Jay Marsden, Marsden Law Group. John Effort, Main Effort Financial.
Yeah, that's us.
Easy to say. Tom keeping us cool and skinny on TV. And we will see everybody
Make sure you're
next
practicing.
week.
All the people that are taking music lessons, right, make sure you keep practicing.
It's coming up. St. Patty's Day.
4
Stretch
hours
out,
a
everybody.
day.
Stretch
All right.
out. It's coming.
We'll see everybody next time.
See you soon. Bye.